Episode 5 of the Bobcast is here on the Bobcat Sports Network. My name is Matt Ambrose, and I'm sitting down with head football coach Delane Fitzgerald. And, Coach, your team was down 19 points to Fairmont State on Thursday night with 10 minutes to play in the fourth quarter, and your team was able to come all the way back and take down the Falcons in double overtime, 41 to 34. Just how was your team able to pull off this kind of comeback?
Matt, I like how you just dismissed the whole first three quarters. Let's just take the whole first 2 hours and 15 minutes of the game, just throw it out the window and talk about one quarter. Yes, we were down 19 in the fourth quarter. The young men in our football program kept believing. Our coaching staff always believes, but the young men, 18 to 22 years old, kept believing in what we were doing and what they were doing, and they kept believing in themselves and their teammates around them. And we were able to put together a couple drives in the fourth quarter. We were determined to finish. Our entire football program was determined to finish Thursday night, and at the end of it, the Fairmont kids weren't interested in finishing.
What does that say about the group of guys that you have the privilege of coaching to have that perseverance to even down 19 in that part of the game to still fight back and win?
It speaks volumes to their parents, to our players' parents, and the way that they've been raised over the 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years that they've been on this earth. But it speaks volumes to their parents. It also speaks to the quality of young men that our assistant coaches recruit to this university, because we recruit purposely. We recruit people that are going to finish everything they do. We want players going to finish their education, players that are going to finish the play they're running, finish the game we're playing. Finish raising their kids, finish their marriage, finish their jobs. We're recruiting people here that are going to finish, and then that's what we did on Thursday night. We finished.
Now, in comebacks like these, things kind of need to just fall kind of perfectly into place. And those couple touchdown drives you had early in the fourth quarter, you had short fields, thanks in no small part to your special teams. You had the punt return from Lincoln to Kubu on the first touchdown to George Richardson, and then the tying touchdown drive, you had Isaiah Horn return the kick to midfield. How crucial was special teams down the stretch in this game in allowing you to fight back and eventually win?
Yeah, Matt, you see it different than me. And you guys see it as everything has to fall into place for us to make that comeback. As a coach of any sport, coaches see it this way: you just have to execute your assignment as an individual, and then all 11 guys on the team execute their assignments collectively, and we end up in the right position at the end of the game, no matter what the score is or who we're playing. Now back to what you were talking about before the punt where Lincoln had the big punt return for 15 or 17 yards, whatever it was. That's set up by our defense doing a really good job the previous three plays. The previous three plays, our defense marched them backwards, so they're punting out of their own end zone, and Lincoln's able to have a good punt. The one thing in college and pro football, if you get a punt team backed up in their own end, where they start thinking about protection more than covering. So they're worried about getting in their stances, and they're worried about getting their kick steps in, and they're worried about punching and blocking so they don't get a punt blocked. And what it enables you to do is, if you execute, you get a big punt return, which is what Lincoln did. But that helped us, Matt. The kickoff by Jeremy Harrison, let's be honest, we look like geniuses. We look like we onside kicked the football, and we didn't. He mishit it. He was supposed to kick a sky kick down in the right corner, which we thought was going to bounce on the ground and give us a chance to, the old hockey term, dump and chase.
Yep.
We were trying to dump the ball into the open spot, and everybody chase it, and let's see if we can come up with the football. Well, he kicked the tee. So he kicked the tee, which popped the ball right straight up in the air about 15 yards down the field, which we played dump and chase at 15 yards instead of at 50 yards. But it was a good thing. Call it lucky, but I call it this. Our young men knew what to do when the football hit the ground. They knew that it was live. They knew that it was a free ball, and we had a bunch of guys dive in there while all the Fairmont players just stood around looking at it, not interested in sacrificing themselves, not interested in putting it all out there, and our young men were. So we took advantage of that opportunity. And then on the kickoff return, great blocking. by our kickoff return, and Isaiah bobbled. He bobbled the catch and put the ball on the ground, and then when he picked it up, there was a huge hole for him to run through. It's one of those deals where you look at it on film and like, hey, I'd like to have been returning that kickoff. I could have looked pretty good. Isaiah's done a nice job for us the last 3 years returning kicks, and he hit a big one the other night.
And also, when we didn't mention was Sean Bliss in the punting game early in the game, pinned them back, forced a safety, and then right before that, a Kubu punt return was able to pin Fairmont back in near their own goal line again and force them to have to punt out of their own end zone. So even Sean Bliss punting in his second game, taking over as punter, was strong down the stretch.
Sean has been big for us punting the football the last 2 weeks.
Let's look at your signal caller, Will Brunson. You spoke volumes about him through the first couple weeks of this season. He had 4 touchdown passes in the game, threw for over 250 yards. 3 of the 4 touchdowns came in fourth quarter or overtime. We also saw him be very smart with the football. He was moving around in the pocket. He was getting rid of the ball, throwing it out of bounds if he didn't have any receivers open. How integral was Brunson in the comeback, not just on the field with how he was able to move the football around and find receivers, but also as a vocal leader in the huddle and on the sideline?
Yeah, every time I talk about Will, I start with it. He's a coach's son, and his dad was a successful football coach, and then that even more successful basketball coach. But he's a coach's kid, so he kind of takes the game in stride as a coach would, and he plays the next play, and he keeps a clear head. And Will never gets too high or too low, which as a quarterback you have to be kind of even kill. And he did a real nice job. And you talked about him. He didn't take any sacks the other night, and Will actually scrambled and threw the ball out of bounds 6 times the other night, which in my 25 years of coaching, you see something new every week. That might have been the thing that I saw new that I hadn't seen before. It's him throwing the football out of bounds and just playing the next play. There's nobody open. I'm getting ready to take a sack, loss of yardage. Let me get the ball out of bounds and let's play the next play. Did a nice job. And then we want Will to be better in the first 3 quarters. Mm-hmm. We want our entire offense and defense to be better in the first 3 quarters from last Thursday. But you're right. He caught fire in the fourth quarter and hit everything he was trying to throw, and he executed a bunch of special plays that we had in the playbook right in a row in the fourth quarter to put us in that position.
Now, on that final touch, or that game-tying touchdown drive, I should say, you gave the ball to Gavin Lovat to get into the end zone. That set up that 2-point conversion. Now, Gavin was struggling on the ground throughout the night. 24 carries, only 43 yards for Lovat after such a strong first couple games for him. What is it about Gavin as a player that gives you the confidence to, even though he's having a tough night, to still be able to put the ball in his hands and let him run into the end zone and set up the game-tying score?
Yeah, it matters to Gavin, and it took him a couple of years here for it to become important to him. But football matters to him, and us being successful this fall matters to him, and his success matters to him. I have not one time this fall ever lost confidence in Gavin, and frankly, in the 3 years he's played for us, I've never lost confidence in him on the field. Now I always worry about him off the field, but when we're in a game situation, we always know we can count on him. Gavin had some issues in years past putting the football on the ground, and he has worked extremely hard over the last year at his ball security, and I think he's fumbled the ball one time this fall, so his ball security has become a plus. If you hand it to him enough times, he's going to be successful. Now, two things. Our offensive line has to block in the run game a lot better than they blocked last week, because they weren't very good at blocking Fairmont's front 7. And then the other thing is, during the week, the more reps Gavin takes offensively, the better he plays that week. He didn't take a lot of reps last week in practice, and it affected him in the game. So he'll get 1 million reps this week.
In the receiving game, Lincoln and Kubu, we talked about the punt return in the fourth, how huge that was. But in the receiving game, a career-high 118 yards to go along with 7 catches. Caught the go-ahead touchdown in double overtime that gave you guys the victory. And it seemed like kind of him and his fellow receivers were able to find open spaces in the secondary of Fairmont. Was that something that you as a coaching staff were able to key on and notice as the game went on and were able to capitalize on during that comeback?
Yeah, Lincoln's one of my favorites. So, and you know that your parents tell you all your life that they don't have favorites, but they really do. And I definitely have favorites. But Lincoln in his 3 years here has done just about everything you can do right for us. And he's been a warrior for us on the field and a great citizen at this university and in this community off the field. We can always count on him. We can play Lincoln 100 straight plays on offense, and he's going to give us great effort 99 out of 100 plays. We can play him 25 or 30 plays on special teams. He's going to give a great effort there. If we ever needed him to, we can run him down on kickoff and punt. We can play him on defense, and he'd give us a great effort there. Really, really good football player, maybe our best. So we know what we're getting with Lincoln each and every week. Now, you talked about the receiver core and them finding a way. We have 5 or 6 receivers that play really, really well together. They're very complimentary of each other, but both verbally and physically, the way they play together, they kind of understand what each other are doing and get themselves open. But you're right, the other night they found a bunch of open spots in the Fairmont defense, especially late. The game kind of, their mind and bodies kind of caught up to the speed of the game on Thursday night, and they played better. We played better as a receiving core as it went on. Some of that credit needs to be given to J.C. McDonald, our offensive coordinator, because him and our wide receivers coach, Billy Shimko, they do a nice job of coaching our wide receivers, and they've done a nice job all fall.
Now, that was a great win, of course. You're now at 3-1, but you have to now focus on Urbana at home this Saturday at 1 o'clock at Bobcat Stadium. What are the kind of challenges that Urbana poses to your group in trying to get your 4th win of the year?
Yeah, Tyler Haynes has been there as head coach 5 or 6 years now, so he's had a chance to build it the way he wants to build it. Their coaching staff's done a great job of going out and getting a bunch of transfers, and I'm going to get it wrong, but they've got 20-plus transfers on their team, and a bunch of their good players on offense and defense have transferred in from other colleges and universities. This is the best football team in Urbana school history, and they started playing football in 1985, so it's not like they have a long traditional history like we do, but they've been playing long enough now, 35 years, to know what's good and what's bad, and this is the best team that they've had. I said last week that I thought Fairmont was probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the conference. Well, Urbana is the 2nd or 3rd best team in the conference right now, and we beat a really good team last week, and our prize for doing that is we get a really good team this week.
How do you, as a coach, kind of get your players to, after obviously such a high at coming back and beating Fairmont, how do you kind of bring them back down and get them to focus on the next task at hand, which is taking down Urbana?
Yeah, well, we don't purposely ever bring them back down, because if we can get them up on a high, we'll just keep them on that high all 4 months of the year. Let them stay up there and play beyond themselves and above themselves and have a great time playing football, which is what we do here. So we never bring them down. However, as a coach, which coaching is teaching, okay, as a teacher, we don't walk in the day after the game and show them 2 hours worth of videos. We don't show them a highlight clip. For we go in and show them an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of mistakes. Like we sit with those first 3 quarters Thursday night. Hey, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. You need to do this better. You've got to do that better. And we go that way for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It brings them back down to reality. We're not purposefully doing it, but when you sit and watch it on film, we watched that film from Thursday night as a coaching staff and as a team on Friday, and after about 25 minutes, everybody goes, well, if we'd have done what we were supposed to the first 3 quarters, we'd have been up 19 instead of them being up 19. So, that happens, Matt. And then the other piece of this is we got a whole week. We've got a whole week to wrap our minds back around Urbana and what we have to do this Saturday. My biggest concern with this week is it's homecoming. Homecoming at Frostburg State is a big, big deal, and they've been going to school here for 1,000,000 years. So all the people that have graduated that are still alive come back for this weekend to see their fraternity brothers and see their sorority sisters, and all the football alumni come back to see their old teammates from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and now there's a ton of people here. Matt, all that does is bring a ton of distraction onto this campus. So we've got dinners this week that we don't have other weeks, and we've got a pep rally this week that we don't have other weeks. My biggest concern, and our biggest concern as a coaching staff, is distractions. I know that if we have a great week of practice, great week of preparation, And if the young men in our football program will block out all the distractions in this town and on this campus this week, that we're going to go out and play good football on Saturday. And if we go out and play extremely hard and execute our assignments, I'm okay with letting the cards fall where they may, because the majority of the time they're going to fall our way.
Coach, appreciate you joining us here on the Bobcast, and best of luck to you against Urbana this weekend.
Matt, I appreciate you having me. Go Bobcats.
Back here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. My name is Matt Ambrose, and we are here with volleyball head coach Becky Fletcher. Coach, your team is now 7-6 on the season. Had a very busy week this past week on the road. A 2-3 week in which you defeated Bowie State and Salem, and losses to Urbana, Notre Dame, and then just yesterday on Sunday losing to Lake Erie in 5 sets. MEC play gets going really in full swing this week. You return home to take on West Liberty on Friday and then Wheeling on Saturday. So, like I said, a very busy week for your team. But what did you learn about your team during this past week?
I learned that they have some guts. We're a pretty young group, and they had some aha moments. That light bulb moment this week where they tried some things that maybe haven't been working for them, or they were a little bit scared to try, and they just played so hard and so well. We started off our Mountain East Conference schedule this weekend, and the teams that we played are our top teams in the Mountain East, and they're playing really well this year too, playing tougher schedules and being really successful. And we were in all of our games for the first 15 points, and then those teams kind of pulled away from us. But I think that says a lot about what our young team is doing. We were able to get a lot of hitters involved this weekend, and just really show up, and really, I think we surprised a few teams in what we were able to do and what the future for this program is going to look like.
Now, I want to get to the younger players in a moment, but first, the volleyball or non-conference play in volleyball typically is just a whirlwind when it comes to the schedule. You've had 4 instances this year in which you've had to play 3 matches in a span of 24 hours, including a couple this past weekend. How difficult can that be for a team, and how relieving is it to now kind of just relax and settle into the MEC schedule where it's just one match every couple days?
So this is actually new for us. Being a Division III team last year, there were times where we would play 4 in under 24 hours, and we would have already played 20 matches at this point last year. So we're like 3 in 24 hours. That's a break for us. It's actually less games, it feels like. So I think that our bodies have obviously so much more time to recover. There's also a lot more time for us to do things like film and scouting our opponents, but watching ourselves a little bit more, and train. So having a full week of practice, which we didn't have last week, but we will for almost the rest of the season, to be able to work on some specific skills or specific things we need to do in scouting opponents and to beat our opponents is something that we're not used to having, and it's been really beneficial, especially to that young group.
Now, in the middle of those 5 matches you played over the weekend, you began MEC play against Urbana and Notre Dame. Losses in both of those matches. What challenges did those teams present to your club?
I think they were just a little bit faster. They were the 2 best teams we've played all season by far. So they were a little bit faster. They didn't make a lot of errors. They really forced us to score our own points and not rely on another team to score points for us. And we were forced to block a little bit more than we have had to in the past and spread our block pin to pin. And we didn't adjust quite as quickly as I would have liked. But I think that knowing that and seeing that is going to prepare us for, what we need to work on over the next couple of weeks going against, teams that are even a little bit bigger and a little bit faster next weekend.
Now, obviously, we talked earlier about the youth that your team has and how successful that youth has been. Perhaps the best of those young players is first-year Jackie Sterenberg. Leads the team with 114 kills this season, had 41 this past week over the 5 matches on the road. What has she meant to your team this season, and just the presence that she brings both on and off the court?
Oh, Jackie, she's a character. She has been so brought so much energy to our court on and off. But she's also just really consistent. She is one of two players that rarely comes out of the game. So we rely on her to pass out of serve receive. We rely on her to be a really consistent hitter for us. And she's learning a lot that role can be demanding and challenging at times.
Right.
And so, I mean, there were times this weekends where teams went after her hard, knowing that she's the one player on the court, playing 6 rotations, and that she's young. But she handled it pretty well, and she's able to bounce back after making a mistake here and there. And I think that says a lot about her character and where she comes from and just what she wants to do while she's here at Frostburg.
Another first year who's been very strong has been Edwina Linez, leads the team in assists and has also been, like you said with Sterenberg, been kind of a staying force on the court. Linez has played in every set so far this season. How important is it to have young players on your roster make impacts, and in the case of Sterenberg and Linez, make impacts in their very first year on campus?
Yeah, this class has come in with a great mentality. They're so competitive. We call her Ed. Ed's really competitive, and Ed brings a different knowledge and a different view of the game than maybe our East Coast kids. She's from Southern California. They play a lot of volleyball from such a young age out there. But her team really, she just gels with them on and off the court, and they look to her a lot on the court. And I don't think of Jackie and Ed as being freshmen out there anymore. We're halfway through our first semester, and they've just had so much playing time and so much court time that they're doing a lot of really good things. They still have their freshman moments, but we don't worry about it too much.
So now you're back home for 2 matches this weekend. It's the first matches you'll have at home since the 14th of September. So you had a couple weeks where you were traveling around. It's the first of 3 straight home matches for your team. Starts with West Liberty on Friday and then number 21 Wheeling on Saturday. What's the approach for your team heading into this week?
So the good thing about this group is they have no preconceived notions about any team we're going to play. So, in the past there are rivalries or teams that are traditionally very good, but we are young and we're new to the MEC and we're new to Division II, so they don't have that this team's going to be really good mentality or fear of anything. So I think sometimes youth is in our favor. I think that if we can get our middles involved, our middles have been doing such a great job over the past few weeks of being able to score points, especially when they're one-on-one. They've just been hitting the ball really hard, which has been a lot of fun for our bench and a lot of fun for our fans. And I think we can have some success. The other thing we learned this weekend is that we were serving really aggressively, and that helps get teams out of system, which allows us to be in a little bit more control of the game.
And we've talked about that on an earlier Bobcast as well, the service game and how that helps you kind of gain an advantage. Is that something you kind of want to focus more on going into these matches?
We have some really aggressive servers who are able to make the ball move a lot, make passers move a lot, and keep teams a little bit more, maybe scrambling a little bit more.
Sure.
And when that happens, that allows our defense to have a little bit more of a break, not having 3 hitters come fast at them all of the time. So when we finally clicked that this weekend, and I think that really showed against Lake Erie, we played them really tough, and it was because of our serving game. It allowed us to have actually more of an offense because we were receiving less offense from the other team. So I think that absolutely that is something that we're going to keep working on, making sure that we're able to pick on some passers or make them move a little bit and get them out of system so that we can get our middles involved in the game a lot.
Coach, appreciate your time here on the Bobcast, and best of luck to you and your team this weekend.
Thank you.
Back here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. My name is Matt Ambrose, and next up is men's soccer head coach Keith Burns. Coach, right now your team at 3-3-1 on the season, 3-2-1 in MEC play. A 1-1 week for your club, a win at home against Davis and Elkins on Wednesday, and then a loss on Sunday, and you travel to Charleston on Thursday before heading to Davis and Elkins for another matchup with them on Saturday. So looking at the Davis and Elkins game first from this past Wednesday, you guys looked strong throughout, had a 3-0 lead in the 68th minute before two late goals made it 3-2. What were your overall takeaways from that match?
Yeah, I thought we came out well. Had good shape and composure on the ball, created some good opportunities. I think it was only 1-0 at halftime, but I thought, I was happy with the performance at that point. And then the goal was really just to kind of build on, not starting the second half poorly like we had done some previous games. And we did a much better job of kind of withstanding their, push at the beginning of the second half like most teams have. And we got two more goals and kind of thought we had iced the game away. And then, unfortunately, instead of having a poor beginning to the second half, we had a poor finish to the second half, and got a little complacent and just didn't think, that they were going to get it done, and some just, I don't want, a few mistakes, I guess, things we could have definitely corrected or done better,
Right.
led to some goals that, in a really tight competitive game, maybe we don't give up because there's a little bit more focus and a little bit more determination to not let that ball in our box.
In that match against Davis and Elkins, you were without the services, your leading goal scorer, Randy Putnam. He was out for that match, but you're still able to come away with the victory. So what does that say about the depth that your squad has?
Well, we've preached that all along, that we thought we were pretty deep all over the place. I mean, the only place we're a little bit thin probably is the back line, and that's a little bit more due to injuries right now. But there's guys we rotate up top, and we rotate all our midfielders, and there's nobody. I mean, Randy's a leading scorer, but it's by one, and it's, a lot of the goals are being scored by multiple people, which is nice. So there's not one guy they can key in on. And it's nice to just have, multiple guys that can win a game for you.
One of the guys that's up there on the goal tally is first-year Tamino Brown, scored his second goal of the season in the D&E game. We kind of seen you use Tamino off the bench as a reserve, kind of some attacking and energy off the bench for your club. What has he brought to the table for your club this season? It's just his first year.
Well, he's a goal-minded guy. I mean, he's in there to create opportunities. He hits a ball well. He's dangerous. He's got good pace. So for him, it's a matter of what our formation is. Do we have three up top, or are we just going with two? And how we're rotating. And he was, actually that game he was carrying an injury with a hamstring that's been bothering him, so we're limiting his minutes. But again, it's nice when we can do that when we got other guys we can play. So he's got, and I think all three of our frontline guys that start, Addison and Eunice, they all have the ability to beat people by themselves, which makes them dangerous. But they all have enough soccer IQ to know when there's a guy that they should be passing to, and good combination play to create the easy goal for someone else.
You brought up Yunus Ben Muna there. He also scored in the match on Wednesday. It's his first goal of the season here with Frostburg State. He seemed kind of emotional after scoring that goal. So we see how impactful that Yunus can be on the pitch. But kind of give us a glimpse into what Yunus Ben Muna is off the pitch, kind of behind the scenes, things we don't really see from his work ethic.
I mean, you can kind of tell by his work ethic what kind of person he is. He's the kid that comes in and runs a 6-minute mile for a recovery run on his day off. Just very focused, very passionate, obviously. I mean, the goal did mean a lot to him. He was, a little discouraged he hadn't scored yet, and he might have been pressing a little bit to get that goal. But now that he's got one, hopefully, more to come, and he doesn't feel the pressure of that first goal type thing. And he just goes about doing things the right way, which is what you want from your older guys. I mean, he's a new player to the team, but he's got the experience from the junior college level and just from some of his youth leagues and things like that, where hopefully the guys can learn from that.
Now the match on Sunday, a 2-1 loss to Notre Dame on the road. That's a Notre Dame team that sits second in the MEC, but you were able to play them to a one-goal match and even kind of pressing them in the second half and putting their backs against the wall. Despite the loss, how happy were you with your team's effort?
I was half happy. Second half was good. First half was very similar to the Urbana game, where we kind of let them come in and bully us around. They were just bigger. They were first to every aerial ball, and they were first to every second ball. They just kind of seemed to push us around, and we just looked like we weren't into the game, and we were still on the bus maybe a little bit. And, you give up a penalty kick, and we didn't mark on a corner kick, so two set pieces to a team that's, ranked fifth in the region. had us on our heels, but we made some adjustments at halftime, and I thought we did a very good job of possessing and building opportunities and limiting their chances. And I thought the second half I thought we kind of carried it.
Your goalkeeper, sophomore Joel Assault, did a really good job keeping you in that match. Had 6 saves against Notre Dame. 4 of those saves came in the first 22 minutes. He's a sophomore now, as I just mentioned. How much growth have you seen in Joel's game so far this season?
I mean, his game itself hasn't changed a lot. Maybe a little bit more confident on flighted balls, which last year maybe he didn't come for. This year he's willing to put his body in there. I think his biggest development has been in his mental preparation, and just focused on being a good goalkeeper and setting some standards for himself, and pushes himself hard in training and doing all those things, because his goalkeeper talent is there. I mean, I don't know how much higher he can get. I mean, he's super athletic. He hits the ball well. He does all the things right in the net. It's just now if he does the little things, preparing and positioning, and that mental preparation, then hopefully he'll even be better than he was last year.
Now, this upcoming week presents your toughest test to date when you hit the road to take on defending MEC champion and the national champion from 2 years ago and 24th ranked Charleston. They're undefeated in MEC play so far. Then afterwards, you face the very same Davis and Elkins team on Saturday that you beat this past Wednesday. What's your mindset for you as a coach and the rest of your club heading into this tough of a week?
Well, obviously we were trying to get points from Notre Dame, and we thought that was the game that would really show us where we were at in the conference, knowing that they were the second place team and the team from last year and nationally ranked last year. So, you hate to have those little bit of moral victories, but I think we at least proved to ourselves we're capable of playing with them, and now it's just a question of is there a gap between us and Charleston? And there probably is. I mean, based on the scores and every other game they've played, they've taken it to people probably by a score of 3-0 or more. So the expectation is, if we can be just below them, and then when we build this program up, then hopefully be in a position to really kind of compete with them. They're clearly the standard of the conference. And then Davis and Elkins, this is going to be new for us. Usually, when you play somebody the second time, it's playoff time. Now we're going to have to play everybody again, sometimes in a quick turnaround, and they're going to think that they gave one away maybe and give up some early goals and played well at the end when they got their 2 goals. So I'm sure they'll be up for it. And again, the parity in the league is probably the biggest thing, where I think every team is capable of getting points from each other, at least from number 2 down. And that's what kind of makes it fun and exciting.
Coach Keith Burns, thanks for joining us here on the Bobcast, and best of luck to you and your team this week.
Thank you.
Back here on the Bobcast, Matt Ambrose here with field hockey head coach Caitlin Thompson. Coach, this past week, 3 home matches, losses to Seton Hill on Wednesday in overtime, a loss to Mansfield on Friday, and then on Sunday a 3-1 loss to Lindenwood at Bobcat Stadium. Let's start with the Seton Hill game. I mean, that was kind of a defensive battle. You guys were in it throughout the match and seemed like you really started to press harder in the second half. And despite you had to deal with the change in the start time, having to play a little later. But despite that, it seemed like you guys came out and gave a pretty good effort.
Yeah, I think we could have given a little bit more of an effort in that game. But I do agree. I think we did come out and we knew what we had to do. We just couldn't put the ball in the goal, and that became a big problem for us and kind of was our downfall at the end of the game. But yeah, so that one was a hard loss to take, just because I don't think I think the team would agree with me that we didn't play our best hockey on Wednesday. So.
And then on Sunday, another close match for you guys, 3-1. You lost to Lindenwood. That was your second time seeing Lindenwood this season. You saw them back on the 13th as well. What similarities did you see in Lindenwood, and did that help you in that match on Sunday?
Yeah, so Lindenwood was really letting us move the ball around them, and we took advantage of that. And last time we played Lindenwood, our attacking press worked really well, and It worked well again today or yesterday. That's how Logan Gladden scored her goal. She was able to intercept as they were coming out of the backfield off of our attacking press, and she just knocked one in. So we knew we were going to have opportunities against them, and I think we did take advantage. But again, just trying to knock some more in the cage.
So you've been in a lot of matches this year. You're still looking for your first victory, but you've had 5 matches decided by 2 goals or less. You've had 2 matches go to overtime this season. So what do you really need your team to kind of focus on in order to break through in these close games?
Yeah, we just have to focus on us and making sure that we're bringing our energy level. I think the earlier 2 games this week we didn't really bring the fight that we have as Frostburg, and Sunday I think we brought that energy, we brought that fire. I know it was hard on the girls. We played 5 games in 10 days, so that's definitely a tough task to ask of them. Um, but we talked about it in the locker room a little bit. We want our MO to be that we're gonna fight for every single game. We're gonna go out there and work really hard. And one of our slogans in the weight room is "Get nasty." So we say that out on the field too. We want to work hard and get nasty out on the field. So I think that we just need to be able to bring that every single game, so that we can take advantage of the teams that maybe don't come out ready to play us, or that we think that we're better than.
You mentioned how you've had a lot of matches kind of clumped together. You get some time off now. You don't have a match until next Tuesday, the 8th. And then after that, you don't play until a week after that on the 15th. You only have 2 matches over the next 16 days. How can you use this stretch of kind of inactivity, only those 2 matches in just over 2 weeks? How can you use that to kind of hit the reset button with this team?
I think the girls definitely need have a much needed long break coming up. Obviously, we're gonna do some practices and stuff, but I think just resting some of the people who are injured is definitely gonna help us, and get them back to 100%. And hopefully we come back mentally reset. I think it's tough when you have game after game after game. Sometimes game day doesn't feel as special as it is anymore. So I think that once game days start to spread out a little bit more, I think it'll start to feel a little bit more special, like they are. So
I think one of the benefits also of this time off that you have is that the 2 matches in those 16 days that I mentioned are both at home. So
yeah,
it's the tail end of a 5-game homestand for you guys. And you're playing at Bobcat Stadium, where you've looked more comfortable this season. So 3 of the 5 matches at home this year have been decided by 1 goal, including both the overtime matches that I mentioned before. So what kind of level of comfort do the girls have playing at Bobcat Stadium?
yeah, they love playing here, and I think we do draw a pretty good crowd. A lot of their friends and family come support us in our home games, so I think they're really excited to show everyone what we've been working on, and that we are a good team, and just play in front of our fans.
Looking at the stats for your team, the top 5 on your team in points, 3 of them are juniors, with Gabby Rahuba, Sam Coffey, and Brooke Lafayette. And another one is a first year in Emily Hughes. And so when you have that first year in Hughes and then 3 juniors up there as well, what does that say kind of about the future of your program, that players, even looking at Hughes just in her first year, having such an impact? What does that say about the future?
Yeah, I think honestly the future is very bright for Frostburg field hockey. We're getting it done, trying to get some 2020s in and we have a few commits so far that are going to be great for our program next year. And yeah, I think moving forward to next year, we're going to look really good, because like you mentioned, that junior class is just a really, really strong class. And Emily Hughes, I mean, she's one of our top goal scorers, and she plays right back. So just she gets it done on attacking corners. So it's nice, and it's definitely something we look forward to.
So after this week off that you have next Tuesday, another second-time opponent in Slippery Rock on the 8th of October at Bobcat Stadium. So what did you learn from your first matchup with Slippery Rock that you're going to try and take into next Tuesday's match?
So we're really excited about this matchup. I mentioned it to the girls yesterday after our game. You know, it's not often that you get to kind of have some redemption over a team, and we did not play our best field hockey that day. We totally recognized that pretty much right at halftime. We knew we weren't playing our best hockey that game, so to be able to get them back and have that game at home and get to show them what we really are made of, I think that's a great opportunity for us.
Coach, enjoy your week off and looking forward to next Tuesday against Slippery Rock. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Next up on the Bobcast, here presented by the Bobcat Sports Network, is cross-country head coach Shane Brookshire. Coach, your runners had a weekend off this weekend before they compete the Don Cathcart Invitational at Salisbury coming up on Saturday. So during this time off from competition, it's going to be 2 weeks off from meets by the time you compete on Saturday. What have you been focusing on with your runners during that time off?
Well, this previous week was actually our built-in recovery week. We still had some tough workouts, including our toughest workout of the season was this past Friday, and the team crushed it. And so everybody ran extremely well. I was pretty surprised at how they could keep their paces with it. The workout was done at goal 5K pace, and most of them were right on with where they were supposed to be at. And so it's the toughest workout of the season. It's meant to be like a mental toughness workout, like trying to work through the pain, like work through the soreness. And like I said, like they ran well, and it just sets us up to be even more competitive at Salisbury. Taking a little break off from the racing just helps with the mind as well, helps the body recover. And so as we now start to prepare for our championship season, and I know the team's itching to get over there, like they've been talking about it for a while, about racing against Salisbury. And so I know they're excited about this one coming up too.
Well, kind of as a runner with having this time off, but you mentioned it's kind of like a built-in period. But what kind of adjustment is that, I guess, from a competitive standpoint, to have a weekend off after a couple weeks in a row of competing in meets? Is there any adjustment period really for a runner to have that weekend off and just focus on training?
There's not necessarily an adjustment period, but more so like a mental break.
Right.
And stuff. Is that after going 3 straight weekends of racing, the body's breaking down. We try to incorporate the races as part of our training. And so when we get this time off, it's really just give them a little bit of a mental rest, give their body a rest from pushing so hard all the time. And so you can't go out there and race hard every single weekend, and especially in cross country with the distances being so long. So having this little break just gives them a little bit of mental rest, and kind of makes them a little bit hungrier for the next meet and stuff. And they know that they're getting close to conference now, and so the key focus for us in training is rest and recovery.
You're through 3 meets this season now. Which of your runners have you seen kind of make the biggest strides so far this season up to this point?
I'd say, Braxton Clark, we knew he was going to be good this year.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to the ones that have probably improved the most, I'd say Daniel Foster has done a great job in adjusting to the college level. He did not get the mileage in over summer as he was participating in some amateur track races, and so his mileage was extremely low, but he has shown himself to be able to handle the college racing, and I think he's got a great future ahead of him here at Frostburg. Jake Rickards, another one that has kind of struggled over the last couple of years with injuries, and he popped off his PR for the first time since freshman year at Lock Haven. Like they both have done great work in practices and in races. And then we have just some new runners like Devin, Horseman Guy, he was on the track team and he came out for cross, and he's still kind of adjusting, but like he's looking stronger and stronger every race, like, as he starts to figure out how to run um, an 8K race. And so like I think like up and down, like we've gotten a lot stronger than where we were at the beginning of the year, and that I still think that the team is faster than what they think they are, and we're just waiting for that right race to showcase it.
You brought up Braxton Clark at the beginning of that point, and the two of us have talked about him and kind of his off-season work a couple episodes ago. But now through 3 meets of the season and looking for the rest of the season with MEC coming up in a couple weeks, what's your outlook for Braxton the rest of the way this fall?
Well, right now I believe he's ranked 17th in the conference amongst the men, and so he can. I don't think he has scratched the surface as to how good he actually is. Like based off of that training that he had over the summer, like he looked smooth throughout the whole race at Lock Haven. Like he wasn't overexerting himself at any one point during the race, and like the workout that we just ran on Friday, like I had teammates that were hitting those times, and they were sub 25 minute 8K guys, and but the difference was that Braxton did that with a big hill, and we ran on flat. And so I think he just hasn't even scratched the surface as to what he's been able to accomplish or what he will accomplish. And so I think once we get this proper rest in and get to the Mountain East Conference, I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in the top 10 in the conference.
So this weekend, like as I mentioned, you head to Salisbury for the Don Cathcart Invitational on Saturday. What does the course present to your runners, and how excited are they to kind of get back into action this weekend?
Well, from what they've told me, the course is completely flat, and so there's not a hill around there.
That's good.
And we train on hills all the time. Like I said, like this last workout had a huge hill on it, and Lock Haven was a flat course, and that was wound up being our best race. And so they're going to have to work a little bit harder in this race because there's not going to be 300 plus athletes in it. I think there's going to be about 10 to 14 teams on the men's side, and so but they're excited to get there. They're excited to race against several of these schools, to have another flat, fast course, and hopefully some good weather for Saturday as well. I said they're just every time we go out there to race, we're just working on one thing to get us better for conference and focusing on where we're at in this moment.
And as we've talked about, MEC championships coming up in a couple weeks, October 26th. What preparations are you taking with your runners to get them ready, and how important these last couple of meets leading up until the MEC?
The preparation right now is definitely working together as a team, in workouts, trying to stick together, trying to keep our pack tight, but also move it up closer to Braxton and Jake and Daniel. We have a really big gap from 1 through 5, and that's going to hurt us at conference. So if we can get that closed, Charleston, their 1 through 5 gap is about 60 seconds. Ours is about 3 minutes. We need to close that gap, and so we're every workout we need to be focused on trying to keep the pack tight, getting our 4 and 5 guys to get closer to Jake and Daniel. It's great to have Braxton up there in the front and to have that leader up there, but our 2 through 5 need to be a lot closer. And so I believe right now, based off of previous races of other teams, we're sitting 5th in the conference. We're a long ways off of 4th, but I think we're a long ways ahead of 6th. And but as long as we don't mess up, as long as we run our race at conference, I think that we can have a top 5 finish there.
Coach, appreciate you joining me this morning on the Bobcast, and good luck to you and the rest of the runners this weekend at Salisbury.
Thank you.
Next up on the Bobcast here, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network, is tennis head coach Jeff Splinter. Coach, the men competed at the ITA Atlantic tournament this weekend. That was at West Virginia Wesleyan. The women were in Baltimore at the Gosher Invite. Let's start with the women's side. What were your overall takeaways from the women's competition this past weekend?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway that I found with our group of girls is we had 4 girls playing singles, 4 girls playing doubles, 2 sets of doubles, and they could only play one way or the other. So I put 4 of our competent singles players in that need help working on singles, kind of putting points together, just giving them some points against some quality competition that they can be competitive with a lot of other D3 schools. As Goucher was there, Mary Wood, Immaculata, and Stockton. So playing a lot of talented players that, we were playing some good points and some good rallies and had a lot of really good matches. And then the one thing that really stood out was our depth. In doubles, Maddie Toothman and Sharice Jenkins played the A flight and competed really well. They're a doubles team that we kind of see around our 3 spot. And they were able to compete with other teams as 3 doubles-ish, so it was great to see. And they're both young, as in first year and sophomore, so it was great seeing them compete. They had a 5-0 lead one set, and unfortunately gave it away. But putting ourselves in that situation is important, and in the future they'll know how to deal with that. So what we saw was, and then Allison Paul and Sarah Cartwright in the B doubles flight ended up winning all 4 of their matches. So, from top to bottom, we might not have won at the A flight or the B flight in singles, but, the C, D, and then all the rest of them, we were very competitive. So it just showed me that we need to continue working in singles, continue working on setting up points and being aggressive and not letting our opponent kind of dictate pace. And then, it's very encouraging seeing our depth is our strength.
Let's focus on, you just brought up Allison Paul and Sarah Cartwright in the Flight B doubles. What impressed you the most about the way that those 2 performed over the weekend?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they are our elder statesmen on the team. Allison is our lone senior. So that senior leadership really kind of fell through, and they play off each other really well and communicated well. They play at the net aggressively and move, and it's exactly the things we talk about in practice. So they're putting things that we do in practice into match play and getting the best results out of it because of that reason. They just really work well together. They communicate. There's not a point where no one's going after a ball because they're just assuming the other person's going for it. There's always communication. I think those 2 are very good at that. And then just, they play to each other's strengths, so they know what each other does well, which ball they know they're going to get to and they're not going to, so they just kind of cover each other's weakness in that area.
You're now 4 meets into the season on the women's side of things. What growth have you seen out of your players on the women's side through those 4 meets this season?
Yeah, I think tremendous amount of growth. We've really stacked our schedule to play against some of the better Division II schools around in the area, and playing a couple other Division III kind of teams that will challenge us and get us playing our best. So playing against the better teams, we can play our best tennis without having to worry about the outcome. Do we want to win games? Do we want to win sets? Do we want to win matches? Absolutely, and that's never going to change. But we understand that playing against the best, it gives you an opportunity to play your best without lacking confidence of, I should have went for that shot. When you play against the best schools, you don't have a choice but to go for that shot. So it really sets our mindset up right. So when we play these Division III schools, we don't have that questioning. We just go for the shot because that's what we would have done against the better schools. So our mindset has always been the same, where we want to play our best against every team, no matter the level, no matter our level. It's just we bring whatever we have to the competition that day, and we use it to the best of our ability.
Let's shift over to the men's side of things. They competed over the weekend at the ITA Atlantic tournament that was hosted by West Virginia Wesleyan. What were your expectations? We'll get to the results in a moment, but what were your expectations going into this weekend for the men? What did you really want to see from the men's side out on the court this weekend?
Yeah, so obviously we had two tournaments in two totally different places this weekend. So I ended up going with the women. My assistant coach went with the men, and she had nothing but great things to say. Our men, the expectation was to go there to see the best Division II has to offer, especially in our region. See the kind of teams that we will be going up against moving forward here, and having that ability and hunger to want to be as good as those guys. I think they saw the level of competition and their eyes were opened. They saw it, and they could have taken it one of two ways. They could have backed off and said, we don't want any part of this, and they chose to step up to the challenge and really play their best. So, that's the one thing we've been practicing is playing against the best, trying to be the best. We want to make sure that we practice just like those guys, so it gives them an opportunity to see those guys and what they do, their preparation, their mentality, and, hopefully Mason and Jeffrey both take that kind of lesson they learned this weekend and share it with the rest of the guys, and then also take it upon themselves to play even better for the rest of the semester.
We asked a couple of the coaches earlier episodes of the Bobcast about shifting from D3 to D2, and you've kind of hinted at it in us talking here this morning about how it's helped kind of boost your schedule, boost the competitive level of your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that in the development of your players to have that kind of level of competition, not just against the higher tier of the D3s, but also playing some very tough D2s like you've noted?
Yeah, it's huge. Coming from the CAC, we definitely had that level of competition with Mary Wash, Christopher Newport, York, and Salisbury. So not a lot has changed in terms of the level of competition we're playing. It's just it's a match in, match out base, and getting ourselves to kind of prepare just like those teams. I come from a top 40 nationally ranked team when I was at TCNJ, and I'm bringing some of that culture here where it's the mentality of preparation. It's getting prepared for the match before the match even starts. It starts when you wake up, and kind of getting that idea of preparing as soon as you can, and getting in the mindset of competing. We don't want to be lacking focus or kind of shrugging off opponents like they're too easy to beat, or shrugging them off because they're too difficult. We want to make sure we're going into every point grinding, trying to scrap, trying to win every single point that we can. Because what we're trying to learn this year is playing a match on a point by point basis. So every point's its own match, and just kind of figuring out how to beat our opponent every single point.
Now this Sunday, both the men and women are taking on Waynesburg, your next meet. What are you looking for from your team? What do you want to see from your team, both men and women, in that meet against Waynesburg on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm looking for us to put into practice a lot of what we've been working on. So we've been working on keeping the ball out of the middle of the court, staying focused, hitting to the opponent's weakness, hitting to our strengths. So it's a lot of that against Waynesburg. I think it's a winnable match. It's a match that our men and our women can both compete in. So it's taking that competition seriously right away, and knowing that it starts right away in doubles. So getting out in the warm up, and then as soon as we get into the match, it's go time. And it's really focusing point by point, like we talked about, and having each one of the players supporting one another. I think we have a great team culture here, a great team bond. So the support one another has will really carry into the court.
Coach Jeff Splinter, thank you for joining us here on the Bobcast, and best of luck to your team this weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Back on the Bobcast here, Matt Ambrose sitting down with swimming head coach Brian Christensen. Coach, first meet of the season this Saturday. And last season, we'll start with the women's side first. Last season, the women went 7-2 in their meets a season ago. So who on the women's side are you kind of looking for as a returner to kind of make some strides this year and some improvements?
Well, first let me say what a pleasure it is to be back in the Bobcast. I live for this. Every week in and week out, I just get so excited to talk about what we do, and shout out to all our fans. I know, assuming we crush the digital world here, so thank you, everyone listening out there. But on the women's side, we definitely graduate a lot of pretty fast girls. Three-quarters of our medley relay. But we return some pretty exciting people, and we're getting some new people in. Becca Marsh, a veteran senior this year, still I would say one of our better distance swimmers. Within a half second of our team record in the mile last year. She'll be returning, and I think we'll lean on her a little bit heavier in some of those relays with the graduates that we had, which she anchored our team record medley relay last year. So whether she knows her or not, she can sprint. And so we'll kind of lean on her pretty heavy. Aubrey Morris, who is a flyer, kind of stepping up in the spot left by Daisy DeMonte last year. Real talent out of Virginia. I think our only Virginian this year, but she'll do some really great things for us. And then Gabby Thompson, kind of a jack of all trades type swimmer. She can do just about anything. She was really close. I think she did every possible event except for one. She didn't get in the 200 backstroke last year, so we'll try again to make her swim every possible event, which should be good. And then another senior, Megan Culbertson, will fill some of that breaststroke gap. She's been working really hard, and we're excited to see how she ends up. A lot of other kind of rounding out our juniors, Taylor Standback and Megan Hendershot, who both come in with really good attitudes. I think really ready to work. And Megan, we just had her inter-squad meet last Friday. She said she was 15 seconds faster than she was at our first actual dual meet last year in the 400. So we're fierce. We're in shape. We've got a good attitude, and we're ready to go.
Let's shift to the men's side now. 4-3-1 for the men last season. A rare tie in there.
That tie still eats me up every day. Every day I wake up and look myself in the mirror and have to settle. I say, Brian, you tied. And it makes me very angry and depressed. But, we got to move forward.
But when you look at the returners on the men's side, we'll shift to them. What are you kind of looking for from the returners on the men's side for this season?
Well, we were in a really good spot. We graduated really no seniors last year. We had a kind of a transfer left mid-semester. Just to kind of, my goal for him was to actually graduate, and so I don't necessarily count him as a senior, but technically we lost him. But we returned a really strong crew. Luke Holloway, our captain, junior, SAC secretary, student athlete advisory council. That is, he kind of does it all. He's definitely gonna score some points. I think vie for some conference championships. Is our goal with him. Anthony Giuseppetti, junior, kind of right behind him, has done some really amazing things in practice. We're really looking forward to him. Did a 22.8 with fins off the blocks the other day, which is really fast in meters, short course meters for those listeners at home doing the time conversions in their head. That kind of Luke Russell had a real strong meet. I think his focus is really sharpened this year. Adam Stein in some of the distance events will kind of return. He had a pretty awesome freshman year. We're kind of looking for him to continue, racing really hard the way he did. Brady Peterson, I think he was our flyer. Kind of had some threats to the fly. He ended up losing our 200 medley spot in the 200 medley relay spot, I should say. I could tell it's fueled him over the summer. He's come back really strong, wanting to get after it. And kind of Sawyer Conklin rounding out our distance crew, who is always just a tremendous athlete to work with. That's exciting to see. We have a lot of depth on the men's side this year, which is going to be really fun.
Now, last year, first years really made a huge impact both on the men's and women's side. You had 9 wins from the women's side from first years, 13 on the men's side, including Adam Stein, who had 10
Yeah.
in his first year. Who are some first years now entering this year that you're looking forward to having some success?
I'm really excited about our first years. I think we have a lot of kids who were probably undervalued coming out of high school, even like by me. And I kind of thought, oh, we'll try to like teach this kid how to swim. And they've been like outstanding in practice, like really pushing a lot of our senior or our returners. On the women's side, Raina Sisson will kind of hop into that backstroke spot vacated by Emily Turner, who graduated last year. She's going to do really, really well. She's done really exciting things in practice. She kicks like incredible. She's like the best kicker on the team. Her roommate, Maya Wilson, kind of coming in, doesn't know where she's going to be exactly, but she's like, I want to do some distance. And we've kind of thrown in some distance practices. She's done really well with it. Sydney Koval, transfer, I think will add some depth to the fly and some distance. And Anna Hughes will kind of do, I think, a lot of sprints, but I think she can do just about anything. My flexion on some IM, some breaststroke. We'll kind of do a lot of things with her. On the men's side, Quincy Page probably was probably the best recruited athlete that we had. He's kind of hopping some relays and some butterfly right away. But we got a lot of kids. James Harmon, breaststroker, who is just like kicking butt when we really need him to. It's exciting. Jacob Tantala, who's a transfer who didn't swim. He was a community college transfer, didn't swim last year, who was like really getting in shape and pushing James in that breaststroke event where we really need some depth. The Miles Henderson, who is another freshman who is giving Adam Stein a run for his money in practice. I think we have a really powerful 1-2 in distance with those two. Adam might be getting a lot more seconds this year to his own teammate, which is exciting. I think we got a lot of other guys who add a lot of depth this year. A lot of good strokers, a lot of good sprinters. We brought in, I think, 9 first-year men. I think that's 8 freshmen and 1 transfer, and I mean they'll all be contributing points. As you know, with our ties and wins, winning by 0.5 at the conference meet last year. I say winning, but 4th, getting not last by 0.5 is the goal here. And then, of course, we lost. That was to St. Mary's, which we lost on the men's side by 2 points. Every point matters. The men tend to be a little bit closer than the women last year for whatever reason. This depth will really help us out kind of moving forward.
What kind of training have you done with both sides during the off season? Really kind of just prepare them for the meet coming up this weekend and just for the season upcoming. What kind of training have you done with your team?
Sure. Well, there is no off-season swimming. Is the old adage.
Yeah.
We never really stop, which is cool. We've eased into things. We're starting to amp up now. It's nice being in Division II. We kind of had a little bit more time to get terminology right, kind of get people on the same page, kind of making sure we're learning how to work in the right way. Last year, at this time, I had not even started. I started Frostburg October 2nd last year, which is, about by the time this comes out. As of recording on September 30th, and I'm still 363 days into the job here.
Right.
We were thrown into stuff, so much more rushed in Division III, which is nice to kind of have the time to spread out and really make sure we're training the right way. We're definitely amping up this week, and we're going to put our foot on the gas and pretty much go until our midseason meet at this point, which is in about a little less than 2 months.
Now, you're just talking about you're entering your second year here at Frostburg. What goals do you have kind of set out for your team going into your second full season here with the Bobcats?
Yeah, we just had a big goal meeting this past Saturday. And I think our goal for this year, in terms of kind of tangible conference level stuff, we want to finish top 5. I think we can finish top 3 in our new conference. It's kind of hard because we don't necessarily know these teams that well. I mean, swimming is nice because everything's, times are times. We know how fast people are, but you get into a rhythm kind of with your old opponents, and we'll see how we end up stacking up this year. In terms of long term, we just got to adapt to Division II. I think it's a new standard that we're all adjusting to, both in competition wise and just kind of like the level of seriousness in the athlete. Which I think our kids have done a great job so far stepping up to that. It's still I think it's gonna be a process over the next couple of years. But we haven't had anybody really bulk at the challenge so far. Not to say that's not a challenge, because it is, but we're rising to meet it.
Now, first meet of the season, as we said, Saturday at Gallaudet to start your season. What are you looking for from your team to start off in the first meet of the year? What are your expectations to begin the year?
I just want us to learn how to race again. It's been a long time for some of these kids, probably about 8 months since conference championship. It's a long time to go without racing. We just got to remember how to do that again. I'm not worried about times at all. This meet, we just gotta race. We got to try hard. We got to find a way to have some fun. And just, I'm really looking forward to that effort. I think we did a good job in our squad meet of fighting to the wall. We had a couple close races between people on the own team, which it's always tough in a squad meet. I was happy that we won the, I think we had 3 or 4 really close touchouts within a half second. And
Right.
We won 4, but we lost 4 because it was against our own team.
Yeah, right.
Which I don't know, you're not going to win. You can't both win, but
Yeah.
this team is fighting hard. It's really exciting, I think, in a way that's already stepped up from last year. That's all I want. I want to be on the winning side of the touchouts, and we're going against another team. I want us cheering. I want us picking each other up when we have a rough race. I want us, getting real excited when we have a great race, and hopefully we'll do pretty well.
Coach, thanks for sitting down with me here on the Bobcast, and best of luck this weekend and the rest of the season.
Well, thank you so much, and go Bobcats.